Why discounts are slowly destroying your restaurant's brand. What's going on, guys? Henry Kaminsky here, your go-to for marketing and branding for restaurants with another episode. Today, I want to talk about discounts and why that is such a crutch for some restaurants. And I want to talk about the good, the bads, the uglies, because we have this conversation quite often, and there's two camps, right? There's one camp is, Henry, if you're in my shoes and you had a restaurant my size, you would do whatever it goddamn takes to get people in the door. And if that means I got to discount my food where, it's a 90% food cost, then I'm going to do it because I can't have nobody in my restaurant one day. It will absolutely kill our revenue. Then there's the other camp that says, why are you focusing so heavily on discounts and making that your go-to versus focusing in on value and experience and figuring out a way to dial that and tune that in, because that's going to save you big time on those slower days. And it's going to build a lot more loyalty. It's going to build a lot more value. It's going to build a lot more trust and relationship with your guests. So I want to talk about this today because I've seen it both sides, and I think that there's a time and place for limited time offers and promotional features. But then I also think that the majority of the time we should be focusing in on value, experience, and giving people a reason why to come back to your restaurant over and over and over again versus just coming for the freebie or the discounted menu. So I think a lot of restaurant owners confuse urgency with value. They see those reservation counts low. I'll give you a quick example. Working at a restaurant the other day, and we were forecasting, and he saw that Thursday only had 20 reservations, and he freaked out. Like, we got to get another promo going right away. And even one of the GMs was like, you sure this is the right thing to do? Right. And that's when, again, I think it was panic and fear that just overwhelmed him and said, no, yeah, that's what we got to do. That's our go-to. That's always worked. We can make this pop. And that's what we did. There was no going back. But here's the problem. What happened there was we had, instead of a 3-day feature, we had a 4-day feature. And now you are training your guests, your social media following, and all those folks just to come back on those deals. I happen to manage this social media account for this particular restaurant. And once towards the end of January started to come, I started to get all these DMs like, are you guys going to have features in February like you've had this month? They're already expecting you to discount for the next month. And my response was, talking with management right now, we're not sure. We have a couple weeks to go. We'll let you know if anything does come about for next month. Because I didn't want to just say, oh, yeah, we're going to do some even more promotions and discounts. I didn't want to go there. See what's happening? The guests are just waiting for you to drop that discount, and they're not coming until that discount drops. And that is a very slippery slope you don't want to start to create for your restaurant. Discounting starts to become more of a habit versus a strategy. I could tell you this, I'm going back probably 10 years. I hired a business coach for my creative company, and he was the first one to really help me recognize the value that I delivered when I was creating all those designs and marketing materials for my clients. And he said, I see what you're doing. You keep discounting your services, but that is such a race to the bottom. You're going to wind up working for pennies, burning yourself out, and then you're not going to be able to make your bills. And then what happens to your business? It basically explodes. So he said, what I would do instead is, one, you need to be able to articulate your value. better. And two, you have to focus on the value that you deliver. So what does that mean? And maybe in the restaurant industry, you think of value is, you're getting all this bang for your buck if you get all this food for a discounted price. No, that's not what I'm talking about. There's value in different things. And if you understand your guests better than they understand themselves, you're going to get what they value, and you're going to start focusing in on that. What do I mean by that? I could give you a quick example. I was at a restaurant recently, drove an hour and 15 minutes to get to. And the minute I walked in, they knew who I was. They knew who they were going to have as my server. They knew where they were going to place me. They knew all my favorites because I created my open table bio and I list them all out in my bio. They had everything dialed in. I sat down. I was with my wife and two friends, and the maitre d' came over. He was talking about one of the new restaurants. He made me feel, because I was the one that booked the reservation for everybody, he made me feel like I was $1 million. And from my open table bio, or maybe they did a little homework on my Instagram feed and they kind of saw the type of person I was and what I valued. Bam. They came, they rolled out the red carpet. Chef came out. He brought a couple extra appetizers out, a couple other entrees out on the house because he knew it was my first time there. And we were just completely blown away. And it was funny? When we were leaving the restaurant, my best friend's wife said, I ain't going to restaurants anymore unless we bring Henry. And, it was a funny little comment, but it did something for me that made me feel like, wow, they really enjoyed the experience. They valued the company. They valued the service. And there was really no discounting. They didn't get me there because they were going to do all of this and they told me up front. I just went because, I really wanted to check out this cool place. I met the chef on Instagram. And so I kind of wanted to see what he was up to and see how he kind of runs the operations. And it just turned out to be a phenomenal evening. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but I want to let you guys know that there's other ways to provide value other than just discounting the food, because that's not what everybody's looking for when we say, bring the value, not so much the discounts. Another thing that I see often when I'm brainstorming marketing strategy with restaurant owners and operators is, when we sit down at the table and we start thinking about marketing strategy, the first thing that they go to is like, all right, what kind of promotions can we come out with? And I don't think that is the right way to look at marketing strategy. It's really focusing in on who that ideal customer is, what do they value, and then bring and craft those experiences and those features to meet what they want, because those are the ones that are going to drive the revenue. It's not necessarily what you think is great unless you are your customer. And I drive this home over and over and over again, but I think it's important to understand that it's all about the guest and what they value. Just because you like X doesn't necessarily mean your guests are going to resonate with that. And that is a tough pill to swallow, but I have to tell you, it took me years to figure that out. But once I figured it out, I realized a lot of the content that I was putting out was just kind of listening to myself talk. But when I started to put out content that I knew my audience was going to resonate with, that's when everything started to grow. All right. So how do we fix this? I'm going to break this down for you in a couple minutes and we're going to wrap this show up. But the first thing is we got to capture attention. And I'm not talking about doing stupid TikTok videos and dancing and making an idiot out of yourself. I'm talking about creating eye-catching visuals and narrative for your restaurant that actually grabs people's attention and gets people to think and say, wow, I really want to check that place out. That place looks unique. That place looks different. The place looks really great. And I haven't been there yet. We talked about this before, but the second step is to give them a reason to visit. So whether it's experience, whether it's a signature event, whether it's a secret menu item that you talk about on social media, but nothing else is ever said via the menu or in-house. Like, those are some of the things that get people to come out and be like, that place looks interesting. Another place down in Central Jersey, their drink menus, it's Mezcal, believe it or not, is the name of the restaurant. This place does such a phenomenal job with their drink menu. I mean, half of their drinks are like shows, their experiences. They have this one drink that looks like a bull, and it's for 2 people, and it's like quite the experience when you order this thing, and the drink's $40. And when I was there that day, people were ordering this left and right because they wanted to see what it was all about, because they saw it on social media. So it gave them a reason to come. And those are types of things that are going to differentiate you versus just throwing out a discount and saying, just come because it's cheaper today. It's not the way I think your business is going to sustain long term. Step 3 is you got to give them a reason to return, right? The bounce back is so huge. So if you know they're a first-time guest, maybe you do something special to get them back the second time. And they come back the second time, they should be marked because it's their second time there. And you should do a little something else that's going to blow them away. Because if you could get them back the third time in 30 to 60 days, they are going to get you to step 4 very quickly. And step 4 is a reason to talk about your restaurant. I've been at this restaurant, Mezcal, first week of January. I have not stopped talking about this restaurant since then, and we're going on month and a half from this episode because of the experience I had and the way that restaurant made me feel. And I've been telling all my friends, listen, I know we live in Bumble, Sparta, New Jersey, but you have to take the ride down because it's well worth it. If you have to get a driver, get a driver. But I'm telling you right now, it's worth every minute to experience this restaurant because it is second to none when it comes to hospitality and service. So they know what hospitality is. They know what service is, and they know what value is. And that's why that particular restaurant is getting people to drive an hour plus like me to go visit them. All right, so here's what I want you to do as we wrap this up. I want you to audit the last 90 days of your promotional efforts. And I want you to take a look at what you did, and I want you to say to yourself, instead of discounting, how can I replace that with a strategy of experience or something of value that's going to hit my audience in a way that I've never hit them before? And I'm not talking about making these big theatrical moves. I'm thinking about small wins that are going to get your guests to say, I'm surprised they did that. I'm surprised they thought of that. Anticipating the need is what I'm trying to get you to go after, and focus on those little things, because those little things on how you make people feel is going to make all the difference in your marketing strategy moving forward. The other thing we've got to do, guys, is you got to train your staff on upselling and talking about the restaurant and telling that story and getting them more involved in the selling process. They're not just there to serve, they're there to sell. And if you don't get that going for your restaurant sooner than later, or better than what it is right now, you're wasting a lot of precious energy and time. So that's another thing that I think a lot of restaurants could do better at, that could increase revenue tremendously. And then lastly, choose a slow night and exercise this. Give it a shot. What do you got to lose? You know, it's a slow night anyway. You might as well see what happens. And I can promise you, you put a little bit more effort and time and energy into this frame of thinking, 9 times out of 10, it's going to change the revenue. It's going to change the way people perceive your restaurant. And they're not just going to come for the discount. They're going to come because you made them feel a certain way, and you valued their time, you valued their money, you valued their experience. So if anything from this episode, I want you to focus in on value and how you could expand that value by not discounting and through other ways. So there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share this with somebody that you think you'd get value out of it. And I will catch you on the next episode real soon. Talk to you soon.